Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be making I had it in my head, the Divina, I think is how it might be pronounced, from Bagstock. I've already done some prepping for it. Like I've attached my foam onto my pieces it had me attach at the beginning. I've got my purse feet on the bottom here. I only used 4. And I did my straps already. So, let's get down to business. This is the first one I've ever made. So, I'm sure there'll be some mistakes. There's mistakes when I make like 12 of them anyways. So, I'm gonna go ahead and move y'all over here. I know this isn't the most ideal spot to watch me sew, but I have a wall right here, and I don't know. If anybody has any suggestions for a better spot, please feel free to put them in the comments. Okay, so we're gonna grab the straps that I've already prepped and the exterior front top panel, which I have a little bit of, I did some fussy cutting. I want to make sure that I'm matching the right ones up. Alright, this is the front one. And then we're going to mark the center. I have 3 kids and a dog, so it may get loud in here every once in a while. I have told my children that I am sewing, but that usually means nothing to them. Hopefully I'm talking loud enough this time. So I'm going to put just a little clip mark within the seam allowance. And I'm going to grab this big ruler. I'm making the tote size, so I'm going to measure 3 1/4 inches over, it says. Okay, 3 1/4 from the center mark. I've got a little silver marking pen here. That's what I'm using to make my mark. And it's 3 1/4 from the center on both sides. My silver marking pen is from Tandy Leather. I actually got it on Wawak. Okay. And then we're going to place our straps. My mark is about right here. I'm going to put my strap right next to it. So there is 3 1/4 inches from the center mark to the beginning of my strap. And making sure it's not twisted, I'll put the other side of the strap on the other marking. Then we're going to base this on. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch seam allowance for my base stitch, and I'm going to use a 4 1/2 stitch length. When I base things on, I usually start 1 to 2 stitches in front of the thing we're basting, and then stop 1 to 2 stitches after the thing we're basting on. Try to keep this straight. So it doesn't wiggle off later. And 1.5 inches. Okay, so we have to sew 1.5 inches up from the bottom edge. So I'm gonna mark that now, or else I'll just keep sewing forever. So I'm going to use my silver marking pen, which will wipe right off of my vinyl straps here. Might have to use something different. Because it's not this glittery fabric. This glittery vinyl is almost too glittery. No, just kidding. No such thing as too glittery. I just can't see my mark. So we will eyeball it. I'm gonna keep my ruler nearby. So we're going to sew on the lines that we've already made. At the 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch marks. And we're only going up 1.5 inches. Oh look, I can see my mark now. So we pivot. I'm on the 1/8 inch marking right now, so we're going straight across all the way to the last marking line. Sorry about that. And then right back down. And then I'm just going to pivot again and go across my base stitch line to the 1/4 inch mark, and we'll sew up that. Stop about 1/8 inch from your 1/4 inch, from your top line you made across here. And sew across. I need like 1/4 of a stitch. And then we'll sew back down the 1/4 inch line. I'm not going to worry about back stitching, because that will end up getting sewn over. Then we'll go ahead and do the other side, which I did not mark. So I just kind of made like an indentation on my vinyl. Okay, pivot. Straight across. And back down on your 1/8 inch mark. Base stitch line and the 1/4 inch line. I'm about 1/8 inch away from my top line. And I I did one too many stitches. There we go. And this is what those look like. Okay, we're going to grab the middle panel piece, which I'm using this glitter canvas, and laying it right sides together with the bottom edge of your top panel piece. Clip it together if you need to. And then we're going to sew this on with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I use a 2.5 stitch length. We're going to pull that out for just a second. All right. Let's try that again. So I was trying to avoid that little bubble there, which ended up making me a little bit short here, but we'll catch that later. I'm going to push this flat down. The seam will go towards this panel, and then we're going to top stitch it. My top stitch length is a 4.5, and I use about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance for my top stitch length. If you're using fabric, you can definitely press this right now, but I'm using this vinyl as well, so I don't want to press. Okay, so right now we're looking at this. Hopefully you can see that a little bit. Okay, then we're going to baste on some more foam. Which is this long piece here. And we want it 3/8 of an inch away from the bottom edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to match it up to the top edge. And then I have some space on the bottom. I'm assuming that's the 3/8 of an inch. And then we baste this on, leaving the bottom edge open. No basting down there, just the two sides and the top. And make sure your strap stays out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to baste it from the right side. I'm going to use, for this side, I'm going to use 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, but the rest of it I'm going to go ahead and use the 1/8 of an inch. I just did that so I could make sure I grab that edge that I didn't get caught all the way. I think her patterns say to baste at 1/4 of an inch so you can compress that foam more. I'm using industrial, so I really don't have an issue with the foam, but if you're using a home machine, I would probably use the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so now we have the foam basted on, and I will show you this real quick. This is what we have so far. Okay, we're gonna put in our rivets. I actually never checked to make sure that I had black rivets. So antique. Here's black. Okay, I have plenty. We're good. All right, I need my pen, and we're going to mark 3/4 of an inch away from the bottom, and then we will do 1.5 inches from the bottom. I should say of the middle accent piece. We're doing 3/4 of an inch. Sorry, I was looking at how hers looks. In her pictures, it doesn't look like she has the stitching stop right here. But she still says to do it, so I'll do it this way. 3/4 of an inch. It's a little high right there. And then it'll be 1.5 inches total, which is another 3/4 of an inch up from the marking you made. And we're going to punch a hole all the way through the foam and everything. So I'm going to punch a hole in the top first. Not right there. And then we'll do the bottom hole, rather the bottom marking. Okay, we've got 2, and we'll come do the other side. Since we didn't sew up this high for the top marking, make sure you hold your strap straight so your marking, your hole isn't off-centered. And then we need some rivets. I use rivets from More Me Know. I believe she uses 9 millimeters. I put the post through the top. And then I do all 4 of them. I'll flip it over and put the studs in. And then I'll keep that face down and grab my press. Put my rivet in the hole. In the hole of the die. All right. Put that back. And now we have this. Okay, I guess we're going to top stitch this again, 1/4 of an inch away from the top, so about 1/8 of an inch away from where your top stitching already was. Not sure why we didn't do this at the same time. Ooh, that's not good. I've got all these loopy stitches back here. Be right back. Okay, I have changed my needle and we will finish top stitching. We're top stitching 1/4 of an inch away from our fold, which is approximately 1/8 of an inch from your previous top stitching line. I'm not going to back stitch because I will pull my threads to the back so we don't have any extra stitching right there in the front. Okay, so then I'll flip this over and I've got my thread pulled to the back and we'll just tie a knot. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Oh, I see why we top stitched afterwards. It's to hold this foam down. Okay. Okay, I need to get my zipper tabs. And move it all over here. And I have my hem guide. And we're going to fold one end of each of these zipper tabs in 3/8 of an inch. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I have 3/8 of an inch mark on here. So we will do 1 centimeter. And then one end of the other zipper tab. Okay, we're gonna put this zipper tab up. Right side up and folded edge to the left. Place the starting end of the zipper above it, right side up and matching the raw edges. Okay, so we need our 9-inch zipper, which mine is, I think, longer than that. So you want the open end on this other side. Up and to the left, I just flipped it. The open end goes on top of it. Right side up and matching the raw end of the zipper tab. Place remaining zipper tab out and zip down. I'm not really sure how that, I'm not really sure how she did that. Okay, like this. Okay, so here's the zipper tab. I'm going to place the open end of the zipper right side up and matching the raw ends over here. And then we're going to put this zipper tab matching the folded edges right side down. So we'll have a sandwich. Raw edges are matched up. And then you're going to only use a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on here. Okay, then you're going to flip them down. And then we'll top stitch. We're going to top stitch along the stitching we just made. Not on the folded, where we folded them in on this, on the left side, but where we already sewed. I'm gonna Burn those ends just a little bit so it doesn't come unraveled later. And then we're going to take our other zipper, our other 9-inch zipper, I should say, and make sure it's actually 9 inches. Again, I'm doing the tote size. I don't know what the zipper sizes are for the handbag size off the top of my head or anything. So maybe just a little bit different. Okay, we're going to slide these into the folded edges we have here. I'm going to match up my folded edge end and my zipper raw edge. And then top stitch that with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Oops, I just flipped that the wrong way. Darn it. Flip, flip, flip. Okay, gonna make sure everything else is still where it was supposed to be. 1/8 of an inch away from the folded edge here. Okay. So now we have this one long zipper with our pulls towards the center. Okie dokie. We need the front bottom panel, which is the one with the foam already attached. I'm going to fold my panel in half and make a small clip within the seam allowance. This one's only like maybe 1/8 of an inch in, because you're probably only going to use 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then we're going to match the center of our zipper tab up with that clip we just made. Right side's down your zipper is right now. I'm just going to clip this on here for this time. Usually I don't, but with the double pulls, I feel like I should. Okay, it says to sew this on with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then you're going to sew over the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance when you add the lining. I do not like doing that because I always can see my stitching, so I will sew this on with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then I'll sew it on when the lining goes on with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Try not to stretch your zipper, but keep it snug. I believe this piece is the one we cut. Yes. We're going to grab that big piece, which I thought I just went. Here it is. Like 17 by 16. This does look to be like slightly bigger, but I did cut this by hand last night, so might be my fault. So we're going to sew this at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance now. Make sure your stitch length is back down. Your lining and your exterior should be right sides together. I think I just ran out of bobbin thread. Now we're going to press these both away from each other. So I'm just folding my lining panel down. I do not like the way my zipper looks. And then we'll top stitch that on with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Turn it up to 4.5. reason I don't like the way my zipper looks is because it like curves off into the fabric here. And that was my fault, not the pattern or anything. In case you didn't know that. It's because I didn't sew my zipper ends shut like she suggested to do. So my zippers are a little wavy then, but okay, we're going to fold our zipper panel from the bottom all the way up to the top, and we're going to match it with the top edge of our zipper here. So let's see if I can make my zipper look even wavier, even more wavy. I don't know. I think I'll have success making it look wavier though. More wavy. Like I said, I cut these pattern pieces by hand last night instead of using my rotary cutter. Should have used my rotary cutter. Okay, we're basting this on 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Baste it on. Okay, I do not have a water soluble pen, so I'm going to do this part a little bit different. I am going to mark the center of just my bag, the exterior, at the bottom. Oh, that is, my center's off now. That's cool. Alright, and then it says to sew over the drawn lines. Alright, let's see what we can do here. I'm going to start on this side, baste at 1/4 of an inch, like it says to. So my center mark at the bottom is not in the same spot as the top. I am going to make it line up with the top zipper, with the zipper tab. So I'm about 1/8 of an inch away from the very center of the zipper tab, and I'm going to sew straight up now. all the way up. Which takes me to, what am I looking for? 1/8 of an inch away from the top stitching that we already did on the zipper tab. I'm going to turn and pivot at the base stitch line at the top edge of the zipper. Go 2 stitches, which ends up being, again, 1/8 of an inch away from the other zipper tab top stitching line. And we're going to sew all the way back down, which gives me exactly a foot space away from my other line of stitching. So I'm going to sew with my foot against that line, back down to 1/4 of an inch away, sorry. And then we'll finish basting this on. Okay, it says trim this now, but I know I'm going to be trimming the zipper tabs in just a minute, so, or I mean, not the zipper tabs, sorry, the ends of the zipper, so I'll just trim them all at once. Okay, so now we have 2 separate pockets here. One pocket. Almost unzipped that all the way. And here's the other pocket. And then we're going to grab the exterior front top panel and flip it down, right sides together with the bottom panel. And we'll clip those together. All right, and then we're going to sew those together at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to do it from the top panel side. Guess that makes sense. I'm literally sewing right next to my foam. So it did end up having the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance at the top. Well, at the bottom rather. We're going to flip this up. And the seam allowance needs to stay up towards the top. And then we're going to we're going to top stitch this on, with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and then a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So pushed up. My seam allowance is pushed up. I did not press anything. The bag here may get in the way in just a second. Sorry, it is pushing it, my iPad out of the way. Sorry. Try to grab this. Again, sorry. Okay. And then go ahead and do a 1/4 of an inch away. Trim any extra. Okay, so I'll show you this quickly and show you my wavy zippers. Let's hold it. You'll be able to see them better, but they're wavy when I take a picture at the end. Unfortunately, I really goobered those up. I did find a little thread here. I'm gonna, there we go, burn down just a little bit. Okay, I guess we are going to move on to the back now. So we'll grab our top panel piece and find the center. And then 3 1/4 inches away. 1, 2, 3 1/4. And 1, 2, 3 grab our other strap. Oops, sorry. Be helpful if you weren't looking at my face. And we'll match up the strap. So there's 3 1/4 inches space right here. So on this side, it is to the right of my line. Based at 1/8 of an inch. No twisted strap. And we'll put it on the left side of this marking and baste this on. Baste. All right, those straps are on. 1 through 4. Okay, and then we have to do the 1.5 inch stitch line. I did just double check now while I'm doing this, and it is 1.5 inches for both the handbag and the tote size, so I'm not real sure why hers doesn't look like that. Maybe it was maybe she changed the stitch length after taking the pictures or something. Okay, they're marked-ish, and we'll do sewing up the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Turn and sew straight across. And come back down on the other 1/8 of an inch seam marking. Come back down. Oops. There we go. On the 1/4 of an inch line now. Probably 1/4 of an inch away. I don't know what thread I grabbed here. No, I need like one more stitch. There we go. And now we'll go back down. I think I grabbed my beginning thread. I don't know if you all have ever done that, but sometimes I stitch my thread into my stitching. So just clean that up a bit. Alright, let's do the other side. Make sure you keep your strap straight when you're sewing this part up. stitch line. And back up the 1/4 inch line. And again, back down the 1/4 inch line. Okay. Then alright, trying to exit my then we're going to put the middle panel on, the other one. Let me check. I'm pretty sure this is a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Yes. Half-inch seam allowance here. Turn my stitch length back down. Oops. I really am holding my vinyl snug this time. And then we're going to press the seam allowance will go towards the bottom, which is the middle panel. And we're going to top stitch this down at 1/8 of an inch. Thread from my strap sticking through on each side, which is why I always try to trim my threads. Okay, so this says to repeat the instructions from attached strap to the exterior front panel section, to attach the remaining strap to the exterior back top panel. That's this part. And from attach the top and middle panel sections. Steps 1 through 3 on page 7. Okay, so no foam, no rivets yet. Okay, we're going to grab the back bottom panel. Again, no foam. And we're going to attach it. What do you want? To the bottom of the middle panel. This we're only sewing with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Press the seam allowance towards the middle panel. So we're going to press the seam allowance up this way towards the middle panel, and we're going to top stitch with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay. Just going to keep making sure my seam allowance is pressed up. Oh, okay. I'm making sure my seam allowance is pressed up, but don't have any bobbin. Try again. Make sure that seam allowance is still pressed upwards. Then we'll grab our last piece of foam. Should match or be really close at least. I'm just gonna pop a few clips on here. Making sure everything stays smooth. And then we'll baste all the way around. 1/4 inch seam allowance. My foam is non-fusible foam. I don't like the fusible foam. Never says to fuse this anyways, but I'm just throwing it out there in case. Okay, let's rotate this and put our straps out of the way. Still make sure that top section is smooth. And I only have woven fuse on my canvas here. I don't have it on anything else. I have waterproof canvas for my interior, so I don't have anything on that. Okay, I'm actually going to top stitch this first instead of putting the rivets on first, and then we'll put the rivets on, just so I don't have to scratch any rivets up or anything. So we'll do 1/8 of an inch away from our previous stitching lines. I am starting on the bottom because I didn't feel like flipping around my fabric again. So 1/8 of an inch from our previous stitching, or 1/4 of an inch away from the folded edge area. And what I'm gonna do here is, instead of stopping and then starting, I'm just going to pivot, sew up our base stitch line, and then pivot again and sew 1/8 of an inch away from our previous top stitching line, or 1/4 of an inch away from your folded edge. So that just reinforced our straps twice. So these straps are going to be really strong because they have the extra stitching for the 1.5 inches around here. Then we'll have the rivets, and then we have 2 lines of stitching over the edge of the strap too. So you can carry bricks in your bag and be okay. It's really bad for your back though. You should probably not carry bricks. Okay, so our markings need to go 3/4 of an inch away from the top edge of our middle section. Oh, literally just like digging my pen in because I can't get a mark. And then we'll go 1.5 inches, which is another 3/4 of an inch up from the mark you just made. Oops, I may have broke my pen. Oh no, we're good. to keep that top strap, the top part of the strap, snug against your fabric, or else you'll have like crooked rivets. And then we'll do the bottom one. You are going to have to fold up your fabric in order for it to get in there. At least with a hand press thing like I have. And then one more. Okay. And my rivets are this. Whoa. I've got 3. 2 backs. There's another back and more fronts. Okay, we need 4 again. Okay. I'm going to put all 4 rivets in the post side. Flip them all over. If you're not careful and you don't like hold them when you flip them over, you will lose your rivets. And grab the press. Make sure your rivets are centered in the hole. Okay, and I'll show you this. And I will be back. All right, let's finish the inside. Gonna bring you over here. This is my pressing view. We're gonna grab our interior zipper pocket panel and press. I've got my seam gauge here and guide, and we're gonna press it 1/4 of an inch to the wrong side. And be very careful pressing because I'm using waterproof canvas. And if I press it from the wrong side, it will melt. So I'd be careful to only catch the right side of the fabric and not touch any of the wrong side. Alright, and we'll do one more. The long edge is the side you're pressing. I usually do not press this. I had already started before I realized why we were pressing this. But usually I just eyeball it at the end. Okay. I'm going to grab one lining bottom piece and one of the zipper pocket pieces that we just folded. I'm gonna fold this in half, wrong sides together, right sides together, it doesn't matter. But I'm folding in half and finding the center. On the back side of this, in the center, I will make a box that is 10 inches wide by 3/8 of an inch tall. But I'm just gonna make 2 straight lines. So you can see what I'm doing. Okay. We're going to start in the center and go out 5 inches. There. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. And then 3/8 of an inch underneath that line, we're going to draw another line. So instead of a box, I'm going to have 2 straight lines. Maybe, no, there is a silver box here. There it is. Then we're going to, let's go ahead and mark the center of our lining bottom piece. Okay, 1.5 inches down on the right side of this fabric, in the center, is where we're going to place our pocket piece. So here's 1.5 inches down, and then we're going to take our pocket piece wrong side up so you can see your box, match up your center, and place your pocket right next to your ruler. So then you have 2.5 inches of space is what it ends up being. And then we're going to sew the box. Well, the 2 straight lines rather. So I'm on the closest to the bottom, so I'm going to start with the bottom line. Make sure my stitch length is right. We'll back stitch here. And at the end. And I'll flip it around and come over to the other line we drew. Making sure to back stitch. And I'm sewing right on top of that line. Okay, so just 2 straight lines are drawn. I don't know if you can see those. There it is. Okay, So in the center of my box, I'm going to start seam ripping a hole. And I'll stop about a 1/2 inch away from the end. Then I'm going to make my V clips right to the stitch line, but don't cut into it. Then what I do is take my pocket piece and stuff it inside to pull it out. And then we have to very carefully press this. Make sure you don't hit this part because that will melt, but this won't, and neither will the front. I'm going to start on the back side. I was going to try to just skip the back side, but so I like to just use the very tip of my iron on that top edge, and then the bottom I can use like the whole thing. Still have to be careful. I'm out of water. Good night. I ended up pushing my zipper pocket piece, the inside of it. You can see it, so I'm trying to roll those edges back some. I don't want to see that. Okay, so now we have a somewhat flat piece. And we need to grab our zipper. Okay. And double-sided tape. I think I just need to start using double-sided tape on all of my zippers. No matter if I think, yeah, I got this, no big deal. Just so I don't get those wavy zippers like I got in the front. I really like double-sided tape for zippers. I've even been told to use like wash away tape for clothes, double-sided tape for the zippers. So you may as well. Okay, so we've got double-sided tape on the top and the bottom of the zipper. Then we'll peel the double-sidedness off the backing. Zipper face up and to the left. And we'll lay the zipper on. Sorry, we'll lay the zipper pocket on. I like to match the bottom edge of the fabric to the bottom edge of the double-sided tape here on the top. And then of course do the top of the folded zipper pocket to the top of the double-sided tape on the bottom part of the zipper. Okay, so after we push that on, it'll be in there, and then we'll top stitch it on. I'm going to use a 4.5 and an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm not going to back stitch because I'll sew over it. In just a moment. But when we get back around, I will sew over it. Make sure your zipper pull is inside your fabric hole, inside your fabric hole. When you move your zipper pull, make sure your foot is down. And then we're back to the beginning here, and I'm going to sew over that just a little bit. And then back stitch. I almost said back space. A little bit funny. And burn any ends here. My zipper is installed. And then, let's see what she does here. Okay, this bag is turned through this opening. So, we're going to take our other zipper pocket piece, lay it right sides together with the zipper pocket lining here. Gonna clip the corners. Looks like you keep your folded edges folded. Okay, and then for me, I like to have my lining right side up, and then I'll flip it out of the way like this. And then we're going to sew all the way around with like a, what does she use? Yeah, she uses a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so we'll turn that down to 2.5. And we'll get to stitching. I'm going to backspace at the beginning and end of this. We're only going around 3 sides. We're going to keep this lining, the right side of the lining, we got to keep it folded out of the way. And we're going to rotate it and flip the lining again out of the way. And keeping these folded, back stitch. Alright, I am going to attempt to trim this, but I have a zipper stop right there. Alright, I got it. At this point, the ends are so tiny, I'm not sure it would matter if I trimmed them or not. But now this is completely done here. Next, we move on to the slip pocket pieces. So you want to grab both slip pocket pieces, put them right sides together, and we will sew them at a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. If you don't notice, usually I don't back stitch when I know we're going to top stitch it, or when I know that we're going to sew over it later. That's sewn with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to flip it up and then back, and I'm going to press this. Then we're going to top stitch and baste all at the same time. I'm at my 4.5. We're just using the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance here. Got a little bit of extra fabric on this one side, so I'm going to trim that down. That's good enough. So this makes pen pockets. I'm not sure I want pen pockets. So I might make it 3 big pockets. So I've got my, sorry, just doing this. I've got my slip pocket pinned together, matching the bottom raw edges and the sides. I've got a center mark. Okay, that I'll use as my, like, let's see, that's only 2 inches. We'll just split it in half. What do you think? Thirds? Let's do thirds. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is figure out how wide this is. Which it looks to be about 15.5 inches. So if we did thirds, that would be like 5 1/3 of an inch. 5 1/3. So we will mark, a third is 333. Is that, hold on one moment. Spider, no big deal, we're good. Not dead. It's alright. Alright, 5 1/3. That's 0.332538-ish. Let's do 3/8. I'll mark 5 3/8 at the very top here of my the top of my slip pocket. There we go. And then we'll do 5 3/8 over here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3/8 right here. Okay, so 5 3/8 inch of it. 5 3/8 of an inch in from each side. So we're gonna do it like I did earlier, and we're gonna start basting on this side. This gets us to right about here. Again, I don't have a water soluble pen, so I'm just kind of eyeballing this. So I'll go straight up. Not real sure how I did that, but I got it right on. And then I'm going to come straight back down is what I'm going to do. I want 1 stitch past the slip pocket edge, and now coming right back down on top of the line of stitching I just made. Then we'll go baste some more. And let's see. I think I need like, hopefully that wasn't too much. And then we'll come up again. Nice. And we will do one stitch past again, just so that doesn't flop open or anything later. And we'll finish basting. So now we have 3 pockets. 1, 2, and a third one. This, I think all 3 of these would be perfect size for your phone. So that'll be nice, but no pen pockets this time. Alright, let's actually take you back over here, because this is the zipper part, which is probably the trickiest part for most people. Okay, so we are going to hold the top left corner of the zipper to meet the right edge at an angle. And then fold it backside from the bottom edge into a triangle. All right, so let's try doing this backwards. We're going to so I've got the zipper pull facing you all. I'm gonna take this corner right here and fold it back towards me to make like this triangle angle piece. And then we're going to take that angle piece right where the bottom of the zipper teeth are, or bottom of the zipper tape is rather, and then we're going to fold it onto itself. So like that raw edge is sandwiched in there. And we're making like a squared off edge. And then you're supposed to base stitch it. So let me base stitch this. I'm not gonna move y'all right now. Alright. So we'll do it on the other side here. I'm gonna take this top edge and we're gonna fold it back towards me, and now I have like this angled piece. Sorry, you can see it on my face good. And then that angled piece where the bottom of the zipper tape is, it goes right across here. You're gonna fold it down so it encases itself. Oops, it slipped out. So I'm gonna do it backwards this time. Away from me, towards you all. Now we've got like this 90 degrees, and there's the bottom of my zipper tape is right there. We're gonna fold it down and encase that edge, and then it's gonna be squared off. And then you'll base that long, just along that long edge. It's might be like 4 stitches total or something. It's not very much, but definitely baste it. So then you have this. right, let's grab our main zipper panels. What I like to do is have my exterior fabric on the top, and then my lining fabric is on the bottom. So I have 2 zipper panels in the exterior, and then 2 zipper panels in the lining. And then on the zipper panels, I use canvas, so I didn't put any interfacing on these ones. I did put it on the rest of the bag, but it does get, it says you're working with the zipper, so it gets a little bulkier, especially with the tiny pieces. So I have no interfacing on this. So it says to fold 1 short end of all of the main zipper closure panel pieces 3/8 of an inch in, at 3/8 of an inch in. So 1 edge. 3/8 of an inch. I don't have that. That's right. So we'll do the 1 centimeter. And I'm actually gonna clip it as well. Be careful with the waterproof canvas. And the entire reason I clipped this is just because of the waterproof canvas. Okay, so it says place 1 main zipper closure right side up, and the folded edge will need to be to the right. Then your zipper pull, well, your zipper goes right side up. And then it's actually going to be 3/8 of an inch in. 1, 2, 3/8 of an inch is where you'll want to start clipping that on. And I have my lining panel right now. I think this is the right one. Give me just a second to play this all out. So then we'll flip that up. Yeah, that'll be right. Okay, so we'll go to the lining panel, and then the zipper will sew all the way down. I'm going to use 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So more or less just basting this on, making sure to start 3/8 of an inch in. just told everyone I was going to use zipper tape, double-sided tape all the time for my zippers. And then I lied. Okay, I'm going to pull that bottom clip out where the fold is. Make sure that fold stays down. Okay, and we're just sewing to the end. My zipper is a lot longer than what it should be. We'll take the main exterior piece and lay it right sides together with the lining. If my lining and my like the lining folded edge and the exterior folded edge don't meet up, I will refold the exterior to line up with the interior, the lining. Okay. Okay, so then for this, what I'm going to do is start, I'm going to open my zipper a little bit so this other side of the zipper can stay out of the way. Then I'm going to start on the short edge at the bottom of the opposite side that we have clipped. 3/8 of an inch from the edge is where we're going to start sewing. Our seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch is what I mean. I'm going to backstitch there. And I'm going to get 3/8 of an inch away from the edge here. And then we'll pivot. And now we have 3/8 of an inch seam allowance at the top. My zipper pulls right here, so I'm going to close that back up for the most part. And we're going to sew all the way down to that folded edge, back stitch. Okay, it says to trim this seam allowance here down to 1/4 of an inch. Trim your corner. And then we'll turn our zipper panel right side out. Okay. I'm going to press this quick. And then we'll top stitch this. So I'm going to start at the open folded ends. And I have a 4.5 seam allowance, or stitch length. Pivot and do an 1/8 of an inch top stitch down this side and down the long edge. And making sure that my folded edges match up down here before I get too close to the edge. And then an 1/8 of an inch up. Okay, one side of the zipper is done. As always, it's wavy. Okay, let's repeat. So this time we'll want the folded edge to the left. Lay the zipper on top with the 3/8 of an inch space. And then we will baste this on. Okay, then we'll grab our last exterior zipper panel piece. Make sure the folded edge is matching the other folded edge. And for this side, I'm going to start at the folded end. We're going to use 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure it's turned back down. Okay, I ran out of bobbin. So this will make my 3rd bobbin for this project. So 3 bobbins for this one. there's a lot of double stitching. If you didn't do the double stitching, like the 2 lines of top stitching on everything, it would probably only be 2. Okay, I'll back stitch. And then I'm at my zipper pole. You can actually see it sticking out here. I'll need to move that. And I opened it. We'll go to about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance away from the edge. And then we'll sew with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance down this end. And back stitch. Trim the short end to 1/4 of an inch. And trim the corner. This side looks like it's gonna, just feels like it's gonna work out a lot better than the other side did. I think I got a little bit extra zipper in the last one. So then we'll turn this right side out. Yeah, this one's a lot nicer. I don't think I'll even have to press it. It's just so much better. Okay, we'll start on the top of the zipper. Turn it up to 4.5 and top stitch all the way around. I'm just going to make sure that my folded edges match up down here. Pivot. And sew down the long edge. And back to the top here. Get rid of some threads. Okay, now we have our zipper panel piece. Oh yes, she uses a zipper tab, a zipper end. I don't have zipper ends, so I'm gonna use piece of vinyl. That of course matches the vinyl that I'm already using, but I did forget to cut it. So we'll cut it 1.5. Maybe. There we go. I'm going to do 1.5 inches wide, and we'll do 3 inches tall. And I just need to trim this. Okay, sorry, I didn't have that cut. So I've got my strip here. 1.5 inches is literally just gonna give me raw ends up on the side. I don't mind that. If it's a concern to you, maybe try doing it 3 inches wide and folding the edges in just to the center, and then folding it over around the zipper. Let's see. I'm gonna give myself a 3-inch zipper tail. Okay, so I've got 3 inches hanging off now. What I'm going to do is fold this in half, make a good marking, and then just slide this up to that halfway point. And then wrap it around. And then I'll top stitch all the way around this. And that's all I do for my zipper tabs. So I'll just use 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just gonna keep going around. If you wanted to, you could do another box around. I don't think I've ever sewn a second box around. The sides I don't think get caught. The zipper isn't caught when you sew the sides of this zipper tab on, but the top and the bottom are caught. So I don't really feel the need to do a second box around. But if you want to, more power to you. Nothing wrong with that. So then I've got a little tab. Boop. Okay. Okay, we're getting the lining pocket. The lining with the zipper pocket. And the main zipper closure is facing up. We're gonna find the center mark actually of the zipper closure. I will not pin it or clip it with my scissors, but I will match these up to the clip I have in my lining fabric already. So our zipper closure is facing up and the pull is to the left. The raw edges match the top raw edges of the lining bottom panel. Then we're going to put the lining top pieces. This is the exterior, or the lining top piece right side together. You're going to sandwich that zipper in. We're going to sew this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I need to start this bobbin over here, sorry. One shake. Alright. We're going to sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way across the top. Should be good enough. And then we flip the lining top up. Make sure that seam allowance is facing the top here. And then we'll top stitch at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Then we'll grab the other lining with the slip pocket, lay it right sides up. Center mark's already marked. Center mark is not marked on the zipper top closure for me, so I will mark it. And put it right sides up. The zipper pull is to the right now. And it seems these are a little off, so I'll scoot this over so it matches up correctly. What I do to see if that center mark was a little bit off is I line up my lining panel together with the edge on the sides. Blech. Okay, so those are together, and then we'll grab the last top panel piece. Clip those together. And then we'll sew that on again with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sorry. length back to the top stitch length, flip my panel up. My seam allowance is up towards the top, and this bag will probably get in the way now of the video. Try to keep it out of the way as much as possible. Alright, so look at this right now and hold the two tops. It's open right there on the sides. And this is what we can see on the top. But if we look at it from the inside, it's black. It matches the lining. Alright, what is next? Gusset pieces. Okie dokie. We're going to take the long edge of the gusset piece. The long, sharp, sorry. It's a short edge, but it's the longer of the two edges. It's the bottom one. We're going to place it right sides together with the short edge of our bottom panel piece. There we go. This is sewn using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I know that this is not sewn again. I mean, it is sewn again. Where's the bottom panel? But I did want a back stitch on that anyways. Okay, so what I'm going to do is open this like this. Keep that seam allowance pressed towards the bottom. And then we're going to top stitch on the bottom. I'm sure you can tell, but I have a purse foot on here, a purse foot that is different size than all the rest. I was out, and I figured I could take it out later and replace it. I'm not sure I'm correct on that part though. I don't know that I can take it out and replace it because I put the foam on top. We'll have to see, I guess. Okay, a 1/2 inch again. Make sure to turn that stitch length back down. And we want that to go towards the seam allowance to go towards the bottom panel. Oops, turn our stitch length up. I've already done this, but I like to sign my bags. If you like to sign yours, or you want to start, now is the time to sign your bag. I usually just do it on the bottom panel here. And then let's do the exact same thing to the lining. So what I'll do is, for the lining, since it's thinner and easier to maneuver, is just sew both the gusset bottom pieces, or the gusset pieces, onto the bottom first, and then top stitch them both. This way I don't have to spend any time changing my stitch length or anything like that. Now I'll switch to the 4.5. Usually I don't even top stitch the lining. I shouldn't say usually because I've never made this pattern, but for other patterns. Oh, good little clay. Okay, this has you start with the exterior, but I have the lining in my hands, so this is what I'm doing, is the lining first. So I'm folding this in half to find the center marks, and I'm just making small flips. And then I've got a center mark already. I'll just make it more pronounced now. And we'll put the, this is the lining main panel and the lining bottom panel, right sides together. I'm going to clip the bottom panel on only. So where the seams are, so I clip the center and from this to the seams. And then I'll take this bottom edge over here and bring it up to the same top panel corner, top main panel corner, and clip that. And then we'll clip down the rest of the way. Easing your fabric in as you go. And I must have got some kind of lucky because that fit in there perfectly. we got the other gusset edge and the top main panel, and we'll clip those corners up. And then keep pinning. I like to pin on like seams. So where the slip pocket starts, where the top main panel and the bottom main panel connect to each other, any seams like that. Okay, so this is clipped on now. I'm going to sew all the way around. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but for the lining, we're going to increase it to 3/4 of an inch as we get in there. At the very tippy tops, you want it to be a 1/2 inch though, because you don't have very much wiggle room if you've noticed before your zipper panels. So you start at a 1/2 inch. And I'll get just past the top panel, and that's when I'll start increasing to 3/4 of an inch. And as I go around here, I'll try to keep those curves nice and flat, smooth, so we don't get any pinching, hopefully. We still have a 3/4 of an inch seam allowance here. Okay, I'm like an inch away from the top panel piece, so I'm going to start coming back into that 1/2 inch. Make sure my zipper panel and my zipper are out of the way. Finish sewing to the top at that 1/2 inch seam allowance. Alright, we'll do the other side now. I'll come back and trim everything up when we're done. So we have the center mark on the gusset. center mark on the exterior main panel, or on the main panel. Matchy matchy, right sides together. And then I clipped to my seam on the bottom panel, both sides. And now we'll go to the top and match up those corners. And then pin, pin, pin. And we'll go to the other side. So when you sew this side on, you want to make sure that you don't cut your zipper pocket panel. Okay, now I'm going to sew it like this. So we're going to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the beginning, just like on the other side. And then after that top panel, we can go ahead and increase to 3/4 of an inch. Oops, okay. Don't do what I did. That's why you always have your zipper foot down, or your presser foot, your needle down when you're moving stuff around. Sorry, I'm starting to cover up my light. inch away from the top panel, so I'll decrease to a 1/2 inch. And our lining is done. Okay, we'll trim this down to a 1/4 inch, it says. One side's done. Lining. Okay. Then we want to do the exterior. Excuse me. All right, I think that's my center mark there, but we'll double check just to be sure. I was wrong. Okay, so we have a clipped seam allowance, and this is kind of stiff to fold, but it does fold. Okay. So the gusset's looking up. We're going to match the exterior clip mark, the exterior main panel clip mark, to the exterior bottom center clip mark. I'm going to clip to the seams here. And then up at the top. And then we'll clip the rest of the way down. It does say to clip the curves on your exterior main piece. So I'll do that. to help ease into those curves. I did not clip past our 1/4 inch seam allowance, our base stitching that we already did. And that actually clipped in there real nice then. I suggest doing that on the lining too. Sure, it says to do that, but just in case. I probably just didn't because I was like, oh, I got this, no big deal. Listen to the pattern. Alright, still staying within that base stitching. Clipping all the way around. The last time I did like 1/4 inch clips away from each other. This time I did 1/2 inch clips away from each other probably. So let's see. Both of them, both sides eased in there very well, regardless of how far apart I put them. I wouldn't do like 1 inch clips or anything, but the 1/2 and 1/4 inch difference doesn't matter. All right. So this is a 1/2 inch seam allowance. We are not increasing this time, only the 1/2 inch all the way around. I think I would have liked doing this from the other side better instead of the gusset side, so I could have sewed with the curve easier. I'll try it on the other side the other way, let you know if that's actually how I'd feel. I do not like the way my canvas looks over here. It looks better when I push it out though. So I guess it's okay. Okay, let's grab the other one. Alright, I have to find the real center on this one. Found the real center on the other ones. I just didn't have the right center on here before, I don't think. Oh, I did. Thought this was going to be a little off-centered. Okay, right sides together. We're going to lay this inside this sorry. Okay. We got the exterior. I'm going to lay it right into the gusset like this. I'm going to match up those center clips. And then I'll pin to the seam allowance on the bottom panel. The seam on the bottom panel. And go back to the top edge. And then here is where I'll clip within the basting stitches. I feel like this one may be harder because you have so much more thickness here. Wasn't bad. Wasn't bad at all. Like so. Then we'll come back to the other end. Top corner. Oops. And clip here. Clip in the seam allowance. Sorry, y'all keep hearing me go. I get really, really warm when I'm sewing. It's really, really warm. Okay, so I'm going to sew instead of on the gusset side this time. I'm going to sew on the main panel side, and we'll sew into this curve. We'll see if I like this way better or the other way. On all the other patterns where I have to sew into a curve, I usually like sewing into the curve versus sewing on the gusset side. So yeah, definitely like sewing into the curve. Alrighty, let's cut those seam allowances down to 1/4 inch. So for the exterior side, that should be where your base stitches are. So you can just trim off until your base stitches and call it a day. Sorry guys, y'all, my scissors suck so bad. Woo, that was tough. That was only one side. At least that was the thicker side. My bad. Almost there. Now that my forearm's gonna fall off. Okay. Whew. All right, no connectors for this one. Lay down. Go. Let's turn this out. Lay down. Go bug down. Alright. So, here's our furniture bag so far. And then we're going to open up our zipper pocket. Make sure you can reach through there. I put my zipper pocket on the back. So I will put my, let's see, slip pocket is, I can see the slip pocket right now. I'm gonna put that right sides together with my front. And then you have to really shove that in there because that zipper's in there. That recessed zipper, that's what I was looking for. And then we're gonna match up our corners where our side seams are. No. As long as this top part ends up being straight, it doesn't matter what it looks, how your exterior is laying inside your interior. All that matters right now is that the top is straight and your straps are pushed out of the way. So you don't want to sew through your straps. Having like a spasm or something in my neck. I can't get it to quit. Okay, and we'll do the other side. Sometimes I just like to go back to the opposite side and start clipping just to make sure it gets eased in there all right. Okay, that's all done in there. Okay, I think my dog's gonna start barking at me. Sorry. He's not listening. Shoot, there's a creak in my neck. So bad. Okay, 1/2 inch seam allowance. We're almost done. Oops, I didn't mean to turn this. I need this on a 2.5 still. I'm gonna start on a long edge, just because it's easier to get myself in. And then I sew from the exterior side of the bag, which is technically the inside of the bag right now. I'm not going to worry about back stitching. Just give me 1 second. Sorry. I'm gonna tip those darn boxes over if I don't get them out of the way. My needle is down when I'm I'm moving my fabric. Okay, we have no connectors, so we can trim this down to 1/4 inch. I usually end up about 1/8 of an inch versus 1/4 of an inch. I don't think it matters too much as long as you have some top stitch, something to top stitch onto, really. Basically, don't cut through the stitches. Much easier to cut through this layer of stuff versus the main panels and gussets. Okay. We will turn our bag right side out through that pocket now. I meant to tell you to check one more time before you sewed that up, that your zipper was open and your pocket was open. So I like to grab the bottom first for most patterns. Seems to be the case with this one too. Pulled out pretty nicely. And then stuff that all in. I like to try to go through and smooth it all out right now. Make sure you caught all your sides and whatnot. Ouch. Fling a strap in your eye. Make sure the top's caught all the way around. You didn't miss anything. Okay. So then I'll stuff just the top, or well, rather it's the bottom part of the lining in with a recessed zipper. I like to do it like this. Stuff that lining in to here. That helps get it laid down. And then push that in the rest of the way. I'm going to fold fold over my edges first, kind of, and then shove that the rest of the way down. And I like to make sure that my edges are rolled pretty far back so I can't see my lining from the exterior. I'm not gonna use the press right now. Actually, I probably won't at all anymore because of all the vinyl I have on the outside. So all the bag patterns that I know of have you close the zipper pocket first, but I do it last. I just like having that open just in case I find something at the end that I didn't like or that I missed or something of that sort. So that's all pressed down in there. Fits in there real nice. I'm gonna start on the back side above a strap, just behind it, so you can't see any extra stitching. While we top stitch this on. Okay, so you'll have to like bend your bag. Just make sure your lining fabric is rolled to the back. You just don't want that peeking out from the exterior side. This is a thick spot right here. That's where those 4 seams are. It's thick again. Make sure those straps stay out of the way. And your lining stays rolled back. done, I'm going to grab a tag because I have them in my zipper pocket when I don't remember to put them in anywhere else. I just have a double-sided foldable tag like this. This doesn't even have the right place where I live anymore. Moved twice since then. Okay, so your bag is folded already. Or is supposed to be. So we'll slip the tag in. And then clip the rest of the way across the bottom. I think from now on, I will just keep eyeballing it. I don't like only turning it under that 1/4 of an inch and having that little tiny bit to work with. I probably use like 3/8 of an inch or a 1/2 inch when I do it myself. Which makes that pocket smaller, of course, but only a smidgen on it. So I'm not real concerned about it. So I'm just top stitching this closed now with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm using a 4.5. I don't think strength really has a factor on your zipper pocket here. So I don't think the stitch length really matters. Okay, my zipper pocket is closed. My ends are burned. Let's go ahead and stuff this back in. Under there. And we have a finished bag. Let's see. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Okay, finished bag. That looks like it just needs some more smoothing out right there. And over here. A straight thread belt. This stands really nice. Oh yeah. Just pressing that out a little bit more helps with that curvy, bonky area. I don't remember if I showed you the inside there. So then it you like this. Lots of room for your shoulders. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Bye.